Hi, my name is Lucia Shikuku. I'm a screenwriter. I've been writing since the late 90s when I was in college. Script writing is my passion and my career. And I've been doing this for a living. I'm here today to talk about writing scripts or script writing or screenwriting or any type of writing that involves entertainment. I'll talk about the different types of writings so that you know exactly where I am. So there are different types of writers. There are those people who write for screen, for small screen, which is the TV. There are those people who write for big screen, which is the movies. Stage writers who are called playwrights. There are those people who write novels. So there are different types of script writers. So you'll find that there are those who can do all, like write a novel, write for stage, for screen, for TV. And there are those people who just specialize, where they find peace and strength in a type of writing. So I would say I am good with screenwriting. I would pick screenwriting over stage writing anytime, or writing a novel anytime. So I'd like to think of myself as a screenwriter. So I write for screen, big or small, I write for screen. So I started writing when I was still in college. I remember my mother, who used to see me write till morning, sometimes just write my stories, introduced me to this guy who was the producer of Wingula, of Tausi. That's when I started writing. I got involved. So I can say that I was taught most of my screenwriting. I was taught by Kibwana Unguso, who was the producer of Tausi. So I learned a lot from him about writing. And I also learned that the most important thing about being a writer was being able to tell a story, being able to you have a story and you can tell it. That's the most important thing. That is what would I call the requirement of being a writer, that you're able to tell a story. So what is screenwriting actually, or writing, script writing or screenwriting? It's actually just putting a story down on paper, telling your story on paper. You could be telling it from the first person, like from the first point of view, like writing a novel where you're telling a story of this type of characters, where they lived and stuff like that. So people will sit down and read, you're reading and imagining the situation, because again, you've described what is going on, you've described this character. So people are using their imagination to read your story and to understand what you're talking about. So that is writing a novel. When you're writing for stage or screen, you're writing things, you're putting words in people's mouths. You know what I mean? Where now you're writing a story, but you're having these people coming to talk about this story and actualizing this story and making it there. So you have these characters who are coming to tell your story with their acting and their performance and all that. So that is what screenwriting is, and scripts are the most important thing in any production, in any entertainment. That is the most important. It starts with the script. It starts with the script. If the script is not there, then there's no story, there's no movie, there's no series, there's no drama, there's no novel, if the script is not there. So it's the most important thing. So for you to be a screenwriter, you have to be an amazing story writer, to be able to get people to actualize your story. So you'll find that script writing and writing a script, or a script, is what gave birth to the rest of the things that are there in production or in the industry. a script gave birth to an actor, a script gave birth to a director, producer, a set designer, a costume person, a makeup person, because the story that was there required for these people to be there to actualize the story. So without a script, we wouldn't be having directors or producers or set designers or actors or makeup artists, costumes, and all that, because the story is the one that gives birth to all these people. Say, for instance, you're writing a story about someone who lives in a lighthouse by the sea, and they are fishermen or something like that, and they wear long dresses and the men wear Scottish skirts and stuff like that. You will need a costume guy to go look for this Scottish skirt. You will need a set designer to either design or find a lighthouse, things like that. So you find that the story is the one that gives birth to whatever crew or whatever cast that you have. So that makes script writing very important. Then now begs the question, how do I sit here, in what capacity do I sit here to tell you about scripting and writing? What have I done that would warrant me or give me the green light to come and sit and tell you about my experiences? I'll just mention a few of the things that I've done. I first started with Tausi, which is my very, very, very first project for screen. I was in college then, and I had a lot of learning to do and a lot of tutorials from this wonderful producer that I met who taught me a lot. And then from there I had a privilege of having my own production, which was Wingula Moto, then to Makutano Junction, and then to many others, like Starting Tidy High, Mother-in-Law, Machachari, all these things I've done. But the latest project that I'm working on now is Monica, which I co-created with Scully Cheruto. And yeah, we are writing our third season now, and we hope it will be as entertaining as it is now. So yeah, those are the things that I've done, Mali and changes and all that. Those are the works that I've done so far. So it's not something that I do that do on the side, the way I meet other people out there and they ask me, apart from script writing, what else do you do? And I'm like, apart from script writing, I do script writing because it is a career, it is a job, it is something that is very fulfilling, pays well, can keep you busy, so busy that you can't do anything else. So that is something that if you want to get into, you should know that it is a career. It's not something that you just want to do on the side. It is a full-time job. So yeah. So I've told you about who our scriptwriter is, the types of scriptwriters we have, and the types of scripts we have. And also, I would like to just talk shortly about the different, when I'm talking about small screen, what am I talking about? What type of stories are on small screen? How do you come in as a scriptwriter for a small screen? Small screen, being TV, has so many things that go on, so many genres. I mean, so many, from series to soap operas to movies that are for TV. There are movies that are for TV, to plays, games, reality shows. And by the way, reality shows, yes, do have scripts. To news writing, that's also a script, because now you have to write for news and stuff like that. So there are so many things that you can do as a scriptwriter for screen, for small screen. For big screen also, there are different types. Okay, you'll do movies mainly, but then now we have short films, we have full feature films, and then now with the short films and the full feature films, then we have the different genres. You'll find that maybe you're good at writing comedy scripts, romantic films, gangster films. You know, there are different genres. Again, cowboy films, dramas, horror movies. You know, so there are different types of stories. So you'll find maybe someone is very good at doing science fiction. So that should be your strength. That should be where you whatever. I always tell people, you know, stories and films and series and all that, they're just like pubs. You know, you can't stop getting a pub because your next door neighbor has a pub. You know, each pub has its own customers. So you'll find that there are people who love sci-fi, and there are people who don't like sci-fi. They like dramas. There are people who like horror films. So you will always have your audiences, whichever genre you decide to choose. So that is script writing for you, and that is the types of scripts, the types of script writers we have. And also, another thing that you should also know is there's no harm in learning how to do all the different types of scripting that are there. You can decide to be a writer for small screen. You can be a writer for the big screen, for stage, write novels. You know, all these things you can do. You can decide to do, or just pick one and stick with it, which is also again okay. For me, I feel very comfortable doing things for screen because I don't know, because screen is about seeing things like things that are quite different from stage. Because stage, again, you have to, it's live, it's there, it's live. You have to write for a live performance, and it's live people, and just working on stage is really. I respect people who write for stage, because I think I would be very confused working on stage, because you have to create the scenarios there, and you have to create the locations have to be there and stuff like that. And for me, it doesn't really work well for me. So I stick to screen, which I'm good at. So what do we talk about? What do we say about script? There are different types of writers. A script person. A script writer is someone who writes a story on paper, and then it comes to be. It's like putting word. Then the word becomes flesh. You know. So I remember growing up feeling very important, because I felt like a small god, because I'm saying word, and then the word becomes, it is actualized, it becomes a reality of sorts, you know, in terms of storytelling. So that is a scriptwriter for you. And there are things that now require what is a good script? What do we call a good story and a good script? What do you need to do to come up with a good story? So we have different types. I will describe this in terms of I'll break it into series and movies, so that now it's easy for us to know, if you're writing a series, what do you need? If you're writing a movie, what do you need? Because writing for film and writing for series is totally different. When you talk about series, you're talking about maybe everyday life, or a group of people who are doing certain things going on, like episodes going on. But when you're talking about movies, you're talking about parts: the first part, the second part, and the last part. You know, but the two of them, again, are almost the same, because for you to write a story, it's just the way we used to be taught in school. For you to have a good composition, it had to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. and it had to have a plot. So I remember when we were in primary school, the first thing you do before you write a composition, you'd write a plan. How is this, my first part I'm going to write about this and this and this, the second part, then I'll conclude like this. So it's the same thing when you're writing any script. You have to have a plan, you have to have a plot, you have to have a way of how you want this story to go. Where are you starting from? Are you starting from the middle? Are you starting from the beginning? Are you starting from the end? It doesn't matter, but it has to have a flow. It has to have progression. It has to move as you go. So what do you require to have a good script? You require, you have to have a plan. You have to sit down and plan your story. Sometimes you start a story from the end. A story comes to you from the end. You know, for example, the guy then got involved in an accident and died. That's how your story has started. So if you've started your story like that, you're thinking, okay, that's my end. So how do I get to my end? I have to look for my middle and look for my beginning. So sometimes stories start like that. And telling a story and writing a script sometimes it's just the way you tell stories. There's one thing that I know about Kenyans that is very interesting. Kenyans will always start a story from the end. You know, you meet someone and they will tell you, Maze, so-and-so may die. You know? So, I may die. Kwani nini ili happen? Then, tuliamka asubuhi, you know, then we had breakfast, then after breakfast, mimi nikamwacha vizuri, he said we'll meet later, I talked to him, he called back, simu ikushika, nini, napata simu, you know. So sometimes people start stories from the end, which is interesting and fun. So being a creative, you always have to find your way of telling your story. You don't have to follow, to do what someone else has done, or to, okay, I don't know if you don't have to follow, there are no rules. For me, I find that there are no rules in telling a story. You tell a story the way you feel, because it's your story. So you are telling this story according to the way you're feeling it, according to the way it plays in your head. I don't know about other writers, but for me, when I'm telling a story, first of all, before I sit down to write it, it has to be playing. So that now when I'm writing, it's like I'm writing something that I'm seeing. So my mind is playing and my hand is writing. So that is how it goes. So when I'm telling a story, I'm not telling a story the way so-and-so would have wanted me to tell it. You know, I'm telling a story the way I am seeing it. But you see, again, sometimes you meet people who want you to tell their story for them. So that's now a different way. You're walking in his mind, in his eyes, in his way of telling things. So that is totally different from you telling your own story. So for instance, you could be called somewhere as a scriptwriter to go, someone tells you, okay, I have this idea. I want you to put it down for me because I'm not good at scripting, but I have the idea. So when things like that happen, then now there's a different way of telling this story, you know. You have to tell it according to your client, according to the way the client wants it. So that's what we call now being a tailor. You know, the way a tailor, you'd go to a tailor with a material and tell the tailor, oh, I bought this material, I want to make a skirt or I want to make a suit out of it, you know. And then the tailor say, okay, so how do you want it made? You know, so you say, okay, I want my trouser to be a 3/4 trouser, and then I want it to have back pockets and front pockets, you know, things like that. So you're explaining to the tailor, and he's writing it down in notes, and taking your measurements to make sure that the coat suits you or whatever suits you. You know, maybe you suggest something and say, okay, instead of you having a pocket here, why can't you have an inside pocket so that out here we make some flowers or whatever, and says, I like that, that's a good idea, you put it in. So you see, you have to ask this tailor for permission for you to tell their story, because it is their story. You're creating something for them. Nikunjie longi ifike hii size. The tailor can't tell you, no, I don't want it to be 39. Let's make it 42 because that is what I want. No, you tell the story according to the way the person wants. But if you have your own story, then you're cutting your own material, then you're sewing your own suit, and you're putting your pockets wherever you want to put them because it's your story. So you have to have that difference, and you have to be able to tell your story the way you want it without feeling scared or worried that people won't like it or whatever. It is your story. You're the one who's telling the story. But the thing is, each story has a different way or a different has different characterizations, So there are some requirements that you need to have when you're creating a story. First of all, you have to make sure that your story is interesting. Your story is intriguing. Your story is something that people will not forget. So when you're coming up with a story, it has to have that. It has to have a duration. Let's say you want to write a series. You want to write a series and about something. You have to ask yourself, how long will this take me? I find that most of the people in this country come up with stories and come up with brilliant ideas, and they come up with stories, but you find that by the time they're getting to the 10th episode, the story has disappeared. So you're wondering, what was the story about again? So anytime you come up with a story, you have to make sure that your story has life, has longevity, if that is a series, So you want to write a story about a certain thing. Maybe you're passionate about this story and all that. You have to do your research, You have to find out. If I'm writing a story about, let's say, the boy child, what do I want to say about the boy child, So you have to sit down and think about it. Like, seriously, you have to research. What are the things that I want to talk about? The joys, the sorrows of a boy child, the things that the boy child is going through, what is making him work hard, what is making him feel pain, what is making him scared, what is making him ashamed, all these things. You have to put them down. You have to do your research and have you have enough material that you're saying, okay, I want to do 2 seasons or 3 seasons of this thing, of this story. Do I have enough material? So you always have to have enough material. Even when you want to write a movie, I want to write a movie. It's about maybe, again, the boy child. Do I have enough material to tell this story the way I want to tell it? What angle do I want to tell this story from? There are different angles of telling stories. If you find that you don't have enough material, can I make a short film out of it? And if I'm making a short film out of it, what am I looking at? So those are the things that you think about when you're telling a story. You have to look at the angles. You have to research. You have to sit down, write pros and cons, write the points that you think matter, write what you think people would want to hear. What do you want to tell people? First of all, you have to be very, very well researched and well versed with what you want to talk about. Like I was saying, Tyler Perry is an amazing movie maker, I think, because through him we started seeing the other side of the Black people and how they live, and through him we also learned that they live normal lives. They make money, and all that. Which was amazing for us. He opened for us another side of the Black Americans that we didn't know, and opened the milder side of storytelling as far as Black Americans are concerned. The romantic part, the marriages, all these things. So the movies are amazing, but the series, I do have a problem with them because I always feel like they're not well done. Like they don't have good progression. If I watch, I remember there's once the first series that came out of his was The Haves and Have-Nots. And I tried to watch it, and I was just like, oh my God, what's going on, because there was a lot of repetition in the conversations, it didn't work for me. So I stopped watching. Then there's If Loving You was wrong, I tried again. Recently, I tried to watch another one that has come out, and it still had the same problem. So sometimes we write. I remember meeting. There's a producer who once told me, people don't care about how well something is shot or how well it's told, as long as the story is there and they can connect with the characters. That is all that matters. But that is not that doesn't work for me. I always feel like it's important for us to have stories that are well researched, stories that have progression. Having progression is very important. Life is about progression. You have to progress. You're growing as you go. And that's the same thing that should be happening to your characters. If I'm telling a story about this, it has to keep growing. Hapo zamani za kale kulikuwa na sungura na simba, walikuwa marafiki, wakaenda, wakakula, wakapigana. It is growing. The story is growing. You can't just have a story that is flatlining. And that's the problem that we have in this country. We always have these stories that are just, they are not moving. They're not... If it's a topic, it's not ending. It doesn't have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Every story has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Whether it's a series, whether it's a drama, whether it's a soap opera, it has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Every episode has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So that now, when I'm looking at this story, I'm seeing where it started and I'm seeing where it's ending. So that is very important when you're telling a story. You have to do your research. You have to have your beginning, your middle, and an end. And it has to keep growing. It has to grow. And also, in life, everything comes to an end. It has to come to an end. Everything comes to an end. It has to come to an end. It doesn't matter whether it's a soap opera or whether it's a series or whether everything comes to an end. Even when you have in a series someone who is in a soap opera, someone who's killing people, it gets to an episode where he's arrested or he's killed. That story ends, another story starts, because it's everyday life. It's not every day that someone will mistreat you. It gets to a point, either you will die, or he will die, or he will be arrested, or someone will rescue you. Everything comes to an end. So when you're telling stories, you have to tell stories in that kind of way. And if you're telling a story about mechanics, it has to be a story about mechanics and their lives and what they're going through and what they encounter as mechanics. So we always have to tell stories that have progression. Everything has progression. You can't talk about something, then you get somewhere and twist it. If I am a bad person, let's say you're writing a story about a character that is not a good person, they're killing people, there's no way you'll get to the middle of this story of this person who's killing people and twist it around and say now he is he has become the one who is rescuing people. It has to tell a story nicely. You have to go the full cycle. He was killing people, then maybe someone shot him, he almost died, then someone rescued him, then he thought about it, he changed his mind. Even the story of Paul in the Bible, it starts with him being this very bad guy who was very passionate about his religion, and he was killing Christians because he believed they were going against God, and he was killing them. Then Jesus came to him, and then he became blind. Then after, it's a story that is going, it's going. So it's the same way that when you're telling a story, you have to have that in mind. You have to tell your story knowing that from this step we'll go to this step, from this step we'll go to this step. You don't get somewhere and find that, oh, there's a series somewhere which is hitting because it has house helps. So let's put house helps in our story. It wasn't there in the first place, so why are we putting it there? You know what I mean? So that is where the problem comes in with our stories. So that's why when you're telling stories, you have to make sure that you have researched your work. They have progression. They are interesting stories. They are stories that are also, again, making sense according to the genre that you're working on. You know, if you're telling stories about people in upcountry, it has to be an upcountry setting. They have to be people in this place actually live like this and they do things like this, and it's their upcountry and their cultures and their everything. Get their things right, you know. Don't talk about Kikuyus and you are doing Jaluo moves, you know, things like that, you know. So you have to make sure that your story is making sense, your story is on point and working. That's why you find that most of the people, when you go to these, what are they called? DVD shops, you'll find people queued up looking for series that are, why? Because they are making sense, you know. You'll be hearing someone asking for, season 2, any of those things, they get out of my mind. Okay, so so we have to always make sure that when we are telling our stories have progression, they are well researched, and well done, so that now when the audiences are watching the stories, they can also, again, be connected to our characters and see themselves in our characters, or see someone else in our characters. Coming up with stories is an art, because you have to be good at it. It's not something that you're trying or learning. You know, there are some things that you can't learn. There are some things that you're born with, and some things that you're taught. You are taught how to drive a car. You are taught how to clean your shoes or something like that. But when it comes to storytelling, it's inborn. It comes naturally. The only thing that someone has to teach you as a storyteller is how to write. Like, I would teach you how to write a script. If you want to do dialogue, this is how you do. If you want to say, to move from one scene to another, this is how you do it. But you already have the story in you. So as I had said before, we are going to work on the stories according to the movie, the way you do a movie story and the way you do a series story. So as a script writer and a screenwriter, this is what I do for a living. Like, it comes every day. If I'm to create something, if I'm to write a series or do anything, this is a process that I will have to go through. There's no escaping it, because if I escape it, then my story won't be as interested or as moving as it's supposed to be. So the way I said, you either are telling your own story or you're telling someone else's story. If you're telling someone else's story, if someone wants you to tell their story for them, you always have to liaise with them, like work with them. I want to do this and that. Is that okay with you? They'll tell you, yeah, I like it. I like that character. I like it oh no, I don't like it. I want you to keep it strictly like this, you know? But if you're telling your own story, then you're free to remove and add and subtract and change and twist whatever you want to twist. So good stories are stories that have progression. Good stories are stories that are interesting. Good stories are stories that have twists and turns, you know. You're having your audience thrown off over something. They were thinking things were going like this, then they go differently. For instance, if someone tells you there's a scene where you have opened the door and someone tells you your father is dead or your husband is dead, what would be your reaction? What would be someone's reaction? Of course, most of the times the audience is expecting that person to either faint or start screaming or break down and start crying. What if that does not happen? What if you decide, okay, instead of them crying or screaming or fainting or what, you tell them and they look at you and they're like, oh, okay, come in. I was actually having tea, and they start talking about something else. That throws the audience off, because what they were expecting is not what is happening. So you always have to be that person who twists things. You have to make your stories have twists and turns. Oh, so-and-so was going to marry so-and-so. It turns out that actually when the wedding, by the time whatever was walking down the aisle, he married his cousin or his sister. You know, things like that. So things that twist and they turn. You have to... Twists and turns makes people be interested in a story. You don't have... Because again... When you're just talking about things that everyone is expecting, okay, akatoka hapo, akamuoa, alafu akamuoa, kaza, those are normal things, you know. No one wants to look at a story that is normal. And that's why people sit down and watch things. They want to see the abnormal, you know. They want to see you go that extra mile. They want to see you tell another side of it, that they are scared of, that side of them, because every one of us has that side of us that is scary to us. But when you see it in a movie or in a series, it makes sense. You know what I mean? I hope I'm making sense. So your stories have to have twists and turns. Your stories have to have hangers. They're called cliffhangers. They have to end in a place where it's like you're taking people on a roller coaster. You know, when you're taking them up there, they're having to struggle to breathe, and they're going down there, and they're feeling all this lightheadedness, and they want to puke and all. That is how you should tell your stories. Stories that make people sit in the offices or discuss in the matatus. What will happen to Monica? What do you think now that she has decided to go this way? What will happen? Will she still stay with this person, or will, you know, all these stories, you know? So you have to have twists and turns. And for you to have things like that, you have to plan. Always plot. If you're writing a story, it has to be plotted. Whether it's a movie or a series, it has to be plotted first. You have to sit down and plot it first. This is how I want it to go. This is how I want us to go. So normally, in the script writing world, we always have sessions where now they're called brainstorming sessions or storylining sessions, where you sit down and storyline an idea or brainstorm an idea. Sometimes we have, if things are done professionally, you'll find that there are people who are just there to storyline, to tell the story. You know, there are people who are just good at telling stories, like plotting something or coming up with ideas that will work on a story. So you sit in a room like for days or a month or 2 weeks. It depends on how you want your story to go. And you find you are a group of people, you're sitting down and you're throwing ideas around about whatever. And you pick the idea that has the idea that has the best drama, you know. For instance, you want to write a story about guys in a group of boda guys. Okay, so that's our series. It's called Boda, for instance. And so you sit down like 3 or 4, 2 people and say, okay, so we want to write this series about these Boda guys. So what are we going to do? Okay, so you sit down and say, first of all, we have to find out what the story will be about. Okay, we have to summarize our story. What is our story about? Okay, for instance, if you ask me, what is Monica about? I'll tell you, Monica is about a girl who grows up in a ghetto and her path crosses with the rich people who live in the suburbs, and she wants that life and she would do anything. So what is Monica about? I'll tell you, Monica is about a girl who grows up in the ghetto and then bumps into a rich family, and she does anything and everything to be like them, to live their lives, you know, to get out of the ghetto and live their lives as a rich person. That is what my story is about. So if I know that is what my story is about, what am I going to do about that? I have to start going back and saying, okay, so I want to write about Monica who lives in the ghetto. So she's a ghetto girl who bumps into the rich and famous, and she wants to go to live that life, and she'll do anything to be part of that life. Okay? Yes, okay. So let's go back. Who is Monica? She lives in the ghetto. Monica is a ghetto girl. So I have to show her life in the ghetto. What is she going through in the ghetto? What does she like about the ghetto? What does she not like about the ghetto? What is happening around her life? You know, who is her mother? Who is her father? What are her struggles? What are her challenges? All these things I'm putting down. Anapitia nini? Mamake, what does the mom do? What does the dad do? What's the relationship between Monica and the mom? Does she have a best friend? How does she move about the ghetto? Does she have a boyfriend at the ghetto? You know, how old is she? Let's say she's 20 years old or 21 or 24 years old. If she's 24 years old, maybe she has a man at the ghetto. Who is this guy? Is he a gangster? Is he a painter? Is he an artist? All these things. What do I want him to be? What will make more drama for me? You know? So those are the things that I'm looking at. What will be more drama? More drama would be she really hates this ghetto because maybe she's very close to her father. The father is sick. He doesn't talk. He doesn't what? He's paralyzed. Monica doesn't like that. She doesn't like that the father is paralyzed, and she doesn't have money to take care of her father who's paralyzed. She'll do anything for her father to get back to normal. You know? The mom sells vegetables. She's just mwanamke wa kawaida and all that. She is looking at her life and she doesn't like it. She doesn't like to live like this. You know, she has this best friend who works as a caterer. One day, someone who's her cousin, who is a driver of the rich employees, asks this best friend of hers to come and make food for the governor, because the governor has won elections and all that, and she's a good cook. So she comes to do catering, and Monica goes with her, and Monica sees this life and decides, this is what I want. You know? So those are the things that you're looking at. So if she's decided this is what she wants, what is she going to do to get to this life? Those are the questions you are. What makes more drama? And you always have to ask yourself, what makes more drama for me? What makes more drama? What would be more interesting? Would it be more interesting if she went there and asked for a job as a caterer? Would it be more interesting if she married one of the guys? Would it be more, you look for what creates drama. What will make people go, oh, no, she didn't. Things like that, So we see, you have to walk the journey. You have to walk with her to get her to get there. And these are steps, because for some time you have to show us about her life in the ghetto and what she's going through. Then from there we are seeing her crossing over to this other side, and what she has seen and what she's doing about it. That is a whole season, because it can't end like that. Then here she is trying to look for papers, trying to pretend that she comes from this area, trying to do this, trying to do that, really just getting into this situation and getting into this life. So it is, you see, that is progression. From here, she's going here. From this, she's going to the next step. You can't jump from there and go to the front. You have to walk the steps. So that is how it goes. So you'll find that you have to sit down and arrange all these stories. For me as a writer, for my story to go and be short, I have to make sure at least I have 2 seasons down, like 13 episodes or something. I have written 13 episodes or 26 episodes of this story, so that the progression is working for me. I have sat down, I have thought about it, I have gone back, we have discussed, I've called other people, what do you think? Someone is looking like, oh, maybe it would be better if this is twisted there, here and there. And you see, when you're creating, it's better for you to have more than one mind, because if you're creating on your own, sometimes you'll miss out on a very interesting thread that you had not noticed, because someone did not, because you decided to do it by yourself. But if someone else comes, you'll find that they are pointing out for you. It could be your own house help who tells you, "Hey, badala ungeifanya hivi mama nani, si ungeifanya hivi." Then you see, that is better. I will do it like that. So it's always better for you to have other people to come and storyline with you. So anyway, in the industry, you'll find that you can get a job either as just a storyliner. Who's a storyliner? A storyliner is someone who comes and plans your story for you. Okay, you've come up with an idea. You want it to be done like this. The storyliner will start from the beginning. What is this story about? What do we want to talk about here? We want to talk about a girl who's come from the ghetto and it would do anything to be among the rich and the famous. That is our story. So that is the first part, which we call the synopsis. This is the synopsis of the story. So let's treat this story. How many seasons do you want of this story? Oh, a season is 13 episodes of each story. So you're saying, okay, I want maybe this. The way I'm looking at this story, it could go for about 6 seasons, 7 seasons. Okay, 7 seasons. Okay, so can we work on the first 3 seasons? So that is now you're treating it. So the first season, let's talk about this girl in the ghetto, what she's going through. How old is she? Maybe she's just finished her 4th form. She's working for someone. She's doing this and that. You could look at it like that. That is our first season. The second season, 13 episodes. Let our first season end with episode 13. This is when now she's meeting with the rich people. So now our second season, we are talking about her working and getting into this family. By the end of the second season, we want her to be ikue alimesha ingia huko. They have accepted her, now she's part of them. So the third season, so you are arranging your season, you're treating your story, you're treating it, you're saying, nataka ifike, by the time inafika hii part, iende. What if it was a movie? The first part of the movie, the way I said, the movie has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So you're saying, the first part of my movie, I will introduce this. So now, so after treating, you have gone through the treatment. You've told yourself that you want to write. Maybe your story has to go for 13 episodes or 26 episodes or 39 or 40 or 52 episodes. So you have to have a plan for all these stories. You just don't sit down and write, like, let's say 5 episodes. Then from there, you're sitting down again to think, okay, so now how do we tell the story? You always have to make sure that you have an abundance of stories. Your story has enough, it's enough to go. So most of the times when someone comes and gives me an idea of what they want, as far as storytelling is concerned, I want to tell a story about, let's say, a high school story on to focus on the teachers or something like that. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, how far will I go with this story? Because I'm thinking, I would look at the relationship between the teachers and the students. I'll look at the relationship with the teachers at home. What could be what are the problems that go in schools? What do teachers go through as teachers, go through as individuals? What type of relationships do they have? What are the scandals that I can play? What are the good things that I can play? What are the challenges that they are facing? All these things, I'll put them together and I'll look at it and I'll be like, that would take me about 4 seasons, because of the way I'm seeing. So every time you're telling a story, let's say you're doing a series, you have to look at it and see what you want to talk about. If you want to talk about doctors, what are you talking about? What are you, apart from their personal lives, what are you talking about? Their mode of treatment, what are they going through, the people that they meet every day, the patients, how they're dealing with patients. And that's why we have so many doctor shows, because of the angles that people pick stories on. That's the same way if you're telling a movie. You can all just have one idea. Like, let's say we all have an idea of writing a short film on let's say domestic violence, because that is what I've woken up with today. I've read like 3 articles on domestic violence, 3 different types of domestic violence. One was a girl talking about her mother and how she went through domestic violence. She was being beaten by her stepdad till the guy, I think, killed her. That's how she believes. The second story is how hard it is for people to walk out of abusive relationships, because we think it's easy, and someone is explaining how it's not easy. And the third one was the way people who grow up in domestic violence homes think that it's the normal till now, when they start living with other people and say that actually it was not normal, and things like that. So you see, those are the 3 different ways of looking at something. So if you have a movie, let's say you have a movie, you want to write a series or a movie, you look at it from different angles. The one that touches me the most, because every time I read a story, I always want to look at another way of telling it. The one that I worked with the most was during the Al-Shabaab, the way they were attacking us. And I was saying, if you were to write a story on Westgate, how many ways would you write it? How many ways? To me, I always look at about 5 to 6 ways of looking at it. I would tell the story from the angle of the attackers, you know. I write a movie on how they planned, how they researched, their relationship with the people that they were with when they were going to die, or they were going to shoot people and stuff like that, all that. And how it ends. Maybe they all end up dying, or they all end up getting away and stuff like that. That would be the first angle I'd look at. The second angle would be on the people who died, the people who were shot at the Westgate, you know. What were their lives before they died? That day, when they woke up in the morning to go to work, what happened? What was their relationship with their husbands, with their loved ones, you know, before they left to go and now end up dying there. I would also look at it from the angle of the people who are there, the survivors, those ones who got away, how they woke up, how they got away, how did they hide to the point that now they were able to get away. I would look at it from the angle of, I was told there were children there who were having a birthday party. I'd look at it from that also, the children who how did they survive to the point that they came out of there. I'd look at it from an angle of love also. I always see this guy who was in love with this chick. Maybe this chick was working in this shop, this guy was working in the other shop. Maybe the guy was too scared to talk to the girl. And the day when the shooting start, he goes there to rescue the guy. They hide somewhere and they stay locked up like for maybe 24 hours or 48 hours before they are rescued. So there are so many ways of looking at a story. And the one that just the question that I always ask myself as a writer is, which one gives me more drama? Which one creates more controversy? Which one would make people intrigued and want to see more of, you know? So that's the same thing about storylining and telling stories. So if you're storyline, first of all, you have to, I've talked about researching and then finding out what your story, first of all, you find out what your story is about. Then you go and research about it, you know? And then you want to know how many episodes or how many series or how many minutes do I want this movie to be, or how many series do I want this series to be, you know, all this first. Then once you come up with that, then now you go to the most important part of the story, which is now creating the stories. Like you're creating the story in chunk, you know. Once upon a time, you're putting it, let's say, in broads. You know what broad bits being, you're putting it like in headlines, you know. The first season about for example, we want to tell a story about the boy child. So the first season, I will introduce the boy child. I want to talk about the boy child when he has just finished school and his experiments. So what am I, when I say experiments, what am I talking about? Maybe he wants to know he wants to kiss a girl, he wants to hit on a girl, his first time to drink alcohol, things like that. Maybe he's learning how to drive a car, his first time to go out, because now he's just finished school, now he wants to experiment with life and stuff like that. So that would be my first season of the boy child. The second season of the boy child would be maybe now he's in a relationship and just figuring out how to make this girl happy. He's making maybe new friends, and these new friends are requiring him to be in a certain way, peer pressure and stuff like that. So you're looking at things that you want to play. So I'll say, okay, that's my second season. It will be about peer pressure. It will be about him having a girlfriend. It will be about him maybe going to college, his college life also, And then my third season, if I'm doing a third season of a boy child, I'm looking at him now out of college and looking for work. Now he's where? He's in his 20s, mid-20s, going to his 30s, how his life is there. Of course, the relationship are getting better, or maybe he's made someone pregnant, or, all those things of just being there when you're job hunting, your first job, you're moving out of home to come and start living alone. I'm playing that in my third season. In my fourth season, I'm playing the boy child now, maybe talking about him and marriage and pregnancy and in-laws and all those things, So that is that now. I've put them in broad bits. I'm knowing these are the things that I'm going to be talking about in my 4 seasons of my story. If I get a 5th season or a 6th season, then I'll know how to go about it. But I'm going through the journey of a boy child. So you have planned that. You've finished planning that. You've done the broad bits. The next most important thing that you do is to go now and look at the characters. You have characters that are playing these people. So it's called the characterization. So the characterization is actually just building up your characters. Who is my main character? Who is his relations? Who is his best friend? Do I need for him to have a best friend? Do I need for him to have colleagues? Who are they? What are they about? What are their families about? Where did they come from? What are their backgrounds? What are their backstories? Because everyone in life has a backstory. So your characters, when you're building characters, it's actually like when God was building us, when he got a rib from Adam and started building Eve and breathed into Adam, all those things. You're breathing life into your characters. So you have to, when you're creating your characters, you have to give them life. They have to be alive. They have to be people that people can connect with. This guy, what is his name? Where does he come from? Does he have relations? Does he have brothers and sisters? What is his relationship with his siblings? What is his relationship with his parents? Sometimes it doesn't even play. Sometimes it's just for you as a writer so that you know how he behaves. Behavior comes from the way you were brought up or what you've seen in life or what you've gone through in life. Okay, so that's why you'll see, like, sometimes you'll see a character when he hears a big bang somewhere, they go under the table or they are hiding or all this time. Then you come to realize, they were in the army and then something happened, his friend died or something like that. Those are backstories, okay? So sometimes if you're doing a movie, you have to play your backstory because you don't have time to tell that backstory as the series is going on, okay? So you have to tell your backstory, you have to tell your character, who is he, what is he about, why does he limp when he was younger. We have to see all that in a movie. But in a series, you can play a series even in the first season without us knowing the backstory of the character. Then you start inserting slowly by slowly the backstory because you have time. So in a movie, you don't have time. So what's the difference between a series and a movie? As a movie, you have to tell a story in a certain amount of time. Okay? Maybe it's a short film. You have to tell this story in 2 minutes. You have to tell this story in 5 minutes. You have to tell this story in half an hour, in an hour. So you realize that when you're doing the Bible for a movie, it will be totally different from a Bible from a series. What is a Bible? A Bible is information of your story that is going to be short. That is the information that you have for a story. Your research, your synopsis, your treatment, your characterization, your broad bits, your scene-by-scene breakdowns, all those, they comprise of a Bible. Why do we make a Bible? We make a Bible mainly for writers. We make a Bible mainly for the directors, the director and his crew, head of departments of production, so that they can read and understand where we're coming from, what we're about, what the story is about, what the characters are about. So a Bible is very important. Okay, so it's called a Bible. So writers always have to come up with a Bible. If you're a writer and you're creating something, you always have to come up with a Bible. Most of the times in this country, you are called to go to work in a film or in a series, and there's no Bible. I have been called to work on a second season of a series, and there's no Bible. You're not given a Bible. Someone just gives you in summary, oh, this story is about this and that. Have you watched? Yes. Okay, now we want to storyline. What do you mean we want to storyline? Give me a Bible. Let me go through a Bible and know what the story was about, how you plan to tell this story, what were the broad bits, who are the characters, what are they about, so that when I'm writing my story, I don't get lost in characterization and all that. So a Bible for scriptwriters, if you are a writer, you always have to have a Bible. If you are a writer who is a storyliner, you have to always have a Bible. If you're a writer who just comes in as a writer, again, there are people who are storyliners, and there are people who can write and storyline, and there are people who can just write. So if you're a writer, if you've been called for a job as a writer, you always have to go and ask for a Bible. Because this is not your story. This is someone else's story that you have to continue working on. So you have to know where they're coming from to know where to go. So a Bible is very important. So what is in a Bible? A synopsis. What is a synopsis? A synopsis in short just means, what is your story about? What is this story about? That's a synopsis. Okay? What is a treatment? A treatment is how you want to tell this story. I want to tell it in 4 seasons, in 3 seasons. In the first season, I want to talk about this. Second season, I want to talk about this. The third season, I want to talk about this. Fourth season, I want to talk about this. So I know, oh, this is the story, this is the trend, this is how it's going. What would I call it? I would call it step outline, which is even better than characters. A step outline is when it's just a step outline is like a broad bit. It's like, a breakdown. You're breaking down your stories. The first bit is this. The second bit is this. The first bit is the birth. The second bit is him as a toddler. The third bit is him as a teenager. The fourth bit is him as that you're breaking down. You're breaking down for me episodically, or you're breaking down for me season wise, or you can, if you're doing a series, you first break it season wise. Then after breaking season wise, you come and break it episodic wise. After breaking episodic wise, you break it scene wise. This episode is about Mariam coming home. Okay, episode 2 is about Mariam meeting his father and mother. Episode 3 is about Mariam meeting his ex-boyfriend. Episode 4, Mariam has a child. Episode 5, now that is breaking down. You're breaking that. Those are broad bits. Those are broad. Then these broad bits now come to episodic breakdowns. Now we've done episodic breakdown. Now the episodic breakdown comes to scene breakdown. Scene 1 is about this. Scene 2 is about scene 3. Maybe you have 10 scenes in an episode. You have to break it down. And you have to, when you're breaking down these scenes, we also call them beats, you have to explain in detail what these scenes are about. Scene 1, Mariam has come home. Mariam has come home and found the father sitting outside the compound, reading a newspaper, eating a mango. She stands there and says hello. The father replies. The father is very shocked. He breaks down and starts weeping. He hugs his daughter. You are breaking it down into details. It's like you're telling it in prose. So you break it down like that. Those are now you're breaking down a series. What about a movie? So let's just divide this story into two. Let's talk about series and let's talk about movies. Short films, long feature films, same thing. So what do you want to do? You want to write a script about. You want to write a script. So the first thing that you have to think about when you want to write a good script is, first of all, the script has to have a story it has to have a story, a good story. What is a good story? A good story is something that will make someone remember. You want to write things that will make people remember. You want to write stories that will make people talk about and debate in offices before work, or in a matatu, or in a radio, or whatever is going on. You want people to remember your stories. Like me, my favorite movie that I've ever watched was Shawshank Redemption. I have never forgotten this movie. It was the most amazing movie I've ever watched in my life. It had very little romance, and I most of the time I'm always intrigued by the fact that it was a movie that was acted mainly by men. I think all the characters were men. I think there were only 2 or 3 women in Shawshank Redemption. And it was so amazing. It's still amazing. It's one movie that I can sit and watch again. Normally, I don't watch movies twice, but I would watch Shawshank Redemption twice. I'd watch it again and over again. The Usual Suspects, same thing. A movie that was really, amazing. It was just amazing the way it was, the twists in the movie, the stories in the movie, they were just amazing. And again, my favorite series that has ever been done in life is Game of Thrones. I don't care what anyone says, that is my favorite series ever done because of the amazing storylines that were done. They had 6 storylines that were running at the same time, and I had never seen anything like that. And they were working, and you'd pick this character, you'd go with this character, and they would leave this character for a while and go to this other character. But still, when they come back, you would still have this character. It was just amazing writing for me. So I think that then you want to have stories like that. You want to have stories that people will not forget. You want to have stories that will go on, that people will still want their children to go back and watch, like Ray also is also on my top 5 list of the most amazing movies that I've ever been told. And I remember I even looked for it so that my kids can watch it, because it was an amazing biopic that was just really done so well. So what do we need when we are writing great stories? First of all, your story has to have a premise. Why are you writing this story? What is your story about? My story is about, I want to talk about 2 guys who struggle to make it in life and they end up making it. Okay, so that is your movie. You have broken up. Now you're breaking up in parts, the 3 parts. Then, after breaking it out in 3 parts, you have to go and break it down into scenes. So you realize how scriptwriters and storyliners have a lot of work. That's why it takes time for someone a process for a script to be developed. It's not something that you can do in an afternoon or do in an evening. It's something that you have to plan. You have to sit down, plan, sleep over it, wake up, think about it. Is that better or do I switch it up? You know, all these things. That is what makes a good scriptwriter. You just don't wake up and write things for the heck of it. So you see now you have broken down. When I say you break it down into scenes, you're breaking down this story into scene 1 to scene 50, or scene 1 to scene 10, or scene 1 to scene 9. It depends if you're doing a short film or if you're doing a whatever. Even if I'm a writer and I come and I find that you have done for me the scene breakdown, it's very easy for me to write. Even if I was not in the room creating, I will be able to write. With the Bible that you've given me, I will be able to write. So let's talk about characterization. Characterization is very important when it comes to movies and films and all that. I will take an example of this Denzel Washington movie that he acts, the one that he acts as an FBI agent, ex-FBI agent who takes down a whole cartel of the Russian mafia. You know, you look at him and you look at his character. That is something that someone built. You know, he has OCD. He has to arrange his napkin in a certain way. He has to read a book in a certain way. He has to be somewhere at a certain time. You know, all these things from his character, you can tell that he's a loyal friend. If you cross his friends, you cross him. Because the reason why he even went fighting with that mafia was because of his little friend, the young friend that he had, the girl, who was also a prostitute who had been beaten so badly by the Russian. So now he takes over from there, you know. So you can tell he's a loyal friend. You can tell he's not married because he lives alone. You can tell that he has OCD because of the way he's behaving. You can tell that his wife died, you know, and he was very happy with his wife from his conversation with his ex-boss, and also from just the way he's behaving. You know, so you can tell that he's an FBI agent from the way he's good at his plans, at noticing small things, at whatever. You can tell that he was very good at his job. So all this just tells you that the character was built like that. So these characters, you build this character, and then you go and meet an actor and build that in him. So if you have a good director, they will always remind your actor, hey, by the way, you have forgotten to scratch your face because you're angry. So let's do it again. Action, yeah, scratch your face. Because when John is angry, at a scratch face. Or when Mary is angry, she will take a deep breath and smile for a while, and then now unleash the anger on someone. So those are the things that you create characters. Who are they? Where are they coming from? What is their physical feature? What are they about? Are they beautiful? Are they ugly? Or do they have a scar? Do they have a limp? And why did this limp come about? Maybe when he was young, he had an accident, his parents died, but he got away, he has a limp. You know, all these backstories, you always have to give your characters backstory. It doesn't matter whether it's a 2-minute film or it's a full feature, or it's a series, or it's a soap. They always have to have character. That way, it will be very hard for you, story-wise, to veer off the topic, you know. Because if this person is just a bad person, they are bad people. Wako na habit ya kuiba, ni muizi. Hata kenda mali, they have to pick something, they have to go with it. Hiyo ni tabia yake, it's inbuilt with them. If this person is wicked person, they are wicked person. They will go anywhere, they don't care about anyone, how they feel or whatever. But you also have to remember that even if someone is wicked, even Hitler had a wife, you know. So there's always a good side to someone and a dark side to someone. So when you're giving birth, you're creating your characters, you have to give your characters good sides and bad sides. They have to have weaknesses, they have to have strengths, they have to have secrets, they have to have dark sides, they have to have phobias, they have to have favorite foods, they have to have a habit, something that they do when they wake up in the morning. What do they do? Do they first switch on their phones and check messages? Or do they first look for a cigarette and light it? Or do they first, all these things, get to their knees and pray? You have to give your characters something that they do, and they can't walk away from that. No matter what, they have to do that because that is their everyday routine. Unless something happens that they have to stop doing it. So those are the things that are very important. So we have looked at the synopsis, what the story is about. We have looked at the treatment, how we want to tell the story. We have looked at the characterization. We have looked at how we can break this story into chunks, either into 3 parts, into episodes, into series. We have looked at that. And then we have also looked at how you can break a script into scenes. Scene 1 is about this, scene 2 is about this. Okay? Then now it comes to, the Bible is ready. You want to now write a script. Because all this time you are not writing a script, you are brainstorming, you're storylining, you're preparing for that script. You have done your research, you have done everything is down in writing. So you have your beats, your scene by scene breakdown. You're giving it out to the scriptwriters, or even you're one of the scriptwriters you're writing. There are ways of writing a script, of course. You don't write a script. The way a novel is written is not the way a stage play is written, is not the way a screenplay is written, so totally different. The way you'd write a series is not the same way you'd write a soap. It's not the same way you'd write a movie. They have very different ways of writing. So of course we have what are they called? We have what are they called? I forget the names. We have I can't call them templates. They're not templates. They're I forget the name that you can use to write a script. So for instance, we have cell text, and we have cell text is the one that is widely known. I know there are others that have come in, but personally I use cell text because it's the easiest for me to use. You just download it. It's an app. You download it and you use it to write a script, which will tell you where to put the characterization, the action, the scene, the dialogue, and all that. It makes life easier for you, of course. And also, there are those ways of writing a story. You just don't wake up in the morning and start writing. You have to say, if you're writing a story, it always has to have a heading. Where are you? Let's say, are you inside when you're thinking of this story? Are you inside a house, a room, a toilet, a kitchen, bathroom, a hall, a church, a hospital? If you're anywhere inside, you always have to let people know that this is inside. What time of day is it? Is it at night? Is it in the evening? Is it in the morning? Mainly, it's usually just night and day. You have to explain, we are inside, this is day, this is Mary's room. Before now you start now explaining yourself. Maybe you explain the room, what the room. If it's the first time we're seeing this story or this room, you have to explain to us how it is, where it's laid out. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that now this writing comes to help the crew members, the set designers, the director, the camera person, the lighting person. They know, this is internal, this is day, this is Mary's house. Okay? We are in her bedroom. So you have to explain, this is Mary's bedroom. How is Mary's bedroom laid out? You as a writer, you're the one who knows how Mary's room is laid out. So you have to explain in detail. It's a simple table and a simple chair because it's for a middle class person, or it's for a poor person, or it's for a rich person. So it's set out in a rich way, or it's set out in a middle class way, it's set out in a poor way, So you have to explain what type of house are you seeing, what type of living room are you seeing, what type of cars are they driving, what type of clothes are they wearing, are they well off, are they poor, are they, So that now the costume person knows how to dress this person, the makeup person knows how to make the person's look, the set designer knows how to set this place, the props person knows how to get the right bed for this person, all these things, because they are very important in the storytelling. So that's why I'm telling you, a script gave birth to all these people, because we needed these people to come and look for these things, and we needed this director to come and bring out this emotion, this movement, this story, all these things. So you have to make sure that this works. So what else can I say? So far, I think I've given it, I've done whatever is needed. And script writing is a very extensive and big topic that needs a lot to be worked on. But, I hope I have given just the basics that you need for you to see how to write a script. So first, you have to have a good story. Then you have to research on your story. Then you have to look for the angle that you want to tell this story from. Okay? And then after finding out the angle of where you want to tell the story from, you have to write it down. Break it down. Please break it down. Whether it's a short film or a series or whatever, always have a Bible. That is one thing I'll have to tell you. Always have a Bible. I know I'm supposed to give an assignment of sorts of how you, if you have understood this, to how to go about it. It would be, the assignment I'd give all of you would be for you to come up with a Bible about your movie or your series or your short film. You have to come up with a Bible, because every scriptwriter needs a Bible. So that's the assignment I would give you. And remember, a Bible has a storyline. A Bible starts with a synopsis. What is this story about? Explain to me what the story is about. I'm not saying you explain like in 10 pages. You have to be brief and precise. You see, the way you turn a novel and see what the story of the novel is about, that is the synopsis. So you write down your synopsis, you write down your treatment, how do you want to tell this story, you write down your characterization, who are the characters, you break the story down, first from the broad bits, then you go to the scene episodic breakdown if it's a series, and then you go into scene by scene breakdown. If you're doing a movie, you start with the broad bits. The first part will be about this, the second part will be about this, the third part will be about this. And then you have to break it down, break your parts down. The first part, it will be about this. By this, I mean this. I'll talk about this. I'll talk about this. I'll talk about this. Second part, I'll talk about this. Third, this. Then break it down into scenes. Whether if it's 10 scenes, you have to break it 10 scenes. If it's 2 scenes, break it 2 scenes. If it's 50 scenes, if it's 60, 75 scenes, if it's 90 scenes, you have to break it down, and you have to take your time. Don't be in a hurry. That's why you see sometimes a movie, someone will tell you, it took me 2 years to write this movie. It took me 1 year to write this movie. It took me a month, 3 months. It takes time. You sleep on your thought. You come back, you'd have a fresh thought again, and you'd want to twist things around. Go ahead and do that. Your stories have to have progressions. Your story have to be interesting. Your stories have to have twists and turns. What the audience, always throw off the audience. What the audience is expecting, you give them the other way. Always think out of the box if you're telling a story. You want to tell stories that have more drama. Every time you think of an idea, you have to weigh all the possible ways that it could be dramatic, that would be more drama. For instance, someone has been shot, or someone is going to be killed. Which is the most dramatic way to kill this person? Which has more drama? Just shooting them, opening the door and shooting them on the head, or strangling them, or poisoning them? Which has more drama? which has more drama. What would be more dramatic? If I want to kill someone, what would be more dramatic to me? To me, I'd invite you for coffee and make you your favorite food. You'll come there, you'll start eating, and we're telling stories, and I start telling you what you did to me. And that time you've taken your 2-3 sips of your wine, and I'm telling you the way you pissed me off, and you killed my mother, and I told you I'll get back to you, and this is the time, and I can't believe you're finally fallen for my nini because you are not going to make it, and there you are drinking your wine and you're choking, and I'm looking at you as you struggle and kick and pee on yourself and whatever, and you die and I walk away. You see, that is more dramatic than just opening the door and shooting this person. It's going away so quickly. You want it to go in a way that someone is feeling, hata mimi ningefanya hivyo, So have drama, have twists, have turns, have what are they called? Cliffhangers. What is a cliffhanger? Cliffhanger is when you leave people on a high. You leave people. There are two people, they're struggling with a gun, they are really struggling, this one is pulling, this one is pulling, the gun goes off. We see the eyes of this person, we see the eyes of the other one, blackout. We don't know who died. And people have to go back next week. Who will miss that? Because everyone is rooting for their person. So always have cliffhangers, always have turns. So-and-so was going like this, but now, no, it's not going like that, it's going this way. So twists and turns have to be in your stories. Don't tell flat stories. Don't copy other people. Stick to your plan. If you've said, this is a story about this, let it be about that. Don't get somewhere and find that, ile series imevuma, now let's steal some ideas from that series. Imevuma kwa sababu mambochi wao wamepamba moto. Okay, so now even us, let's put mboches. What are you doing? Your story was not about house help. So your story was about rally drivers. So how is a mboch coming into a rally driver story? It's because you have been creating as you go. You didn't sit down to create the whole story, the whole seasons, and then sit down and write. So that's how we fail in this country. We fail in this country because we don't sit down and take our time to create something, to make it work, then now start writing. So let's talk about the scriptwriter and their involvement in pre-production, post-production, and production. Normally, they say the scriptwriter is the first person in and first person out. What do they mean by that? A scriptwriter is the person who comes in to create the story, build up the story, do all those things that I've been telling you about, treatment, synopsis, characterization, breaking down the story into episodes, into all those things, scriptwriters, then writing now the script. So you're done, the script is done. You finished your script, the editor said it's fine, it's passed, it's ready for production. That is where the scriptwriter's work ends. Most of the time, that is where it ends. But you'll find that sometimes the production would require for you to be on set. When you go on set that time, you are not a scriptwriter, you are a script supervisor. Now we have those ones, the script supervisor. The script supervisor is the person who is on set to supervise the script, to make sure that the story is going according to how it was planned. So if there are any changes to be done, the script supervisor is the one who does the script. Mainly the person who does script supervisor is the person who has been there from the beginning. You'll find most of the times people who end up being script supervisors are the script editors. What is a script editor? A script editor is that person who was with you when you guys were storylining and the one who was deciding what story is working and what story has more drama. Okay? It's kind of like the chairman of the meeting, because you need someone who will say, okay, I think this idea is better for all of us for this story. It has more drama. Most of the times the script editor is someone who can see drama, who can see the duration of the story, who can see where this story can go and where it's not working, where it's not working, where it's working, where it's not working. So someone who's very experienced in storylining process. So the script editor always ends up, again, most of the time being the script supervisor, because now they're the ones with the stories. They're the ones who know what will make more drama. They're the ones who know if something is missing here and we take it to the other side, if it will make sense or it will affect the story or it won't affect the story, you know? So they're the ones who will sit there and help the director. If the director has a problem, it's like, okay, you said you want us to shoot here, but we don't have this location. If we go here, will it work? And the script editor is like, yeah, it will work. But you see now, most of the times, again, we have to know as script writers that once you've given your script writer to the director, the story becomes the director's. It doesn't become yours. It becomes the director's story. So if you find a good director, that's why you find people looking for good directors. You find them getting awards, oh, good director, whatever, interpreting the story. You'll find that the director now takes up the story and makes it his. You might have wanted to shoot outside the hospital. The director says, no, I think we should shoot this in the garage, because to me, it means now we are using the director's imagination. We are no longer using the scriptwriter's imagination. So you can't go there or sue people and say, oh, I wrote this story, now this story. No, you can't do that, because first of all, you did your part. You gave them your script. They said it was fine. You were paid for it. What is going to happen with that script now is none of your business. That's why you're sorry. Sometimes you even find that someone has written a movie, and by the time that movie is being shown, they can not even see what they wrote, because the director has changed everything. Sometimes directors do that. Sometimes you'll find a director that sticks to the script because they like the story and they love for the story to they do justice to your story. So you'll find that once the scriptwriter has finished writing and the work has been given away, the scriptwriter has very little say, unless they are being called in to come and be script supervisors, where they'd advise, okay, well, this actor is not here, we want to change this story so that it's about this actor and this actor. So the scriptwriter will rewrite that page and change the story because maybe they've lacked the actor or something like that. So most of the times the scriptwriter's work ends when they finish writing and the script has been approved and they've been paid. So that is one thing you should know. Another thing is, once the script has gone to the director, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to the director. So that's why you find most of the times these days, you'll find the person who wrote the script is the one who's directing it, because they are hell-bent on making sure that their story is told the way they wrote it. So sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you sit with the director and tell the director, I want it done like this, like that. And you'd find a director working with you at all times. I was thinking of changing this and that. What do you think? Will it affect very much? And say, no, I don't want you to touch that because there's a reason why I wanted it to go like that. Because if you see in episode 90, you will understand why I want it to be like this here, because it has some attachment to episode 90 or episode something like that. So the director says, okay, I understand. Then they will play it the way it is being played, you know. So that is how it goes most of the times. But as a scriptwriter, if you want your work to be done well, I would advise again for you to be present, you know, if you're working, if you could work with a director, that would be good for you. But if it's someone else's work, you know, it's very hard for you to work with the director, because that person is the one who will look for the director. Or if you can be the director, it will also be a good thing for you. As a scriptwriter, I always tell people, apart from learning or being taught in class or being lectured or reading somewhere about how to write a script and stuff like that, it is always very important to learn from other people. From other people's works. I don't know about you, but I think it's very important to also have a role model. For me, it has always been David E. Kelley. I love David E. Kelley. He wrote Ally McBeal, amongst other very many series. And I grew up with David E. Kelley, you know, watching David E. Kelley and stuff. And I always just used to marvel at his creativity and his way of telling stories. And then as I progressed, he disappeared for a while, and then there was Shonda Rhimes, that who I find very amazing, because in all aspects and in all ways of telling her story, she has a very beautiful way and angle of telling stories. So anything by Shonda Rhimes, I would watch. I'm also an actress, so I also have favorite actresses, like, let's say, Angelina Jolie. Anything that she's acted, I'd watch to just learn how she would go about situations and things like that. And that's the same thing, even at this time, as things go by, you have to keep watching. Like now, I don't think there's a day that passes by that I don't watch a series. In a day, I have to watch 3 types of series. I always have 3 types of series that I watch. And I not only just watch, but I also learn the script, the way the script was done, the language of it. At the moment, I'm watching House of Cards, which is a very cleverly written script. It's a very clever move, the way the actors sit down, and you can see there's a lot of research, because it's a political a series, so there's a lot of research involved in it, and the clever way that these guys are just playing is just amazing. It's actually a house of cards. It's a card game, and the script is amazing and just good to look at and watch. I'm also watching 13 Reasons Why, and the reason why I'm watching 13 Reasons Why is because it's a teenage film. It's a teenage series, and I've always wanted to write a teenage series. And I'm watching 13 Reasons Why because I want to do something like that, not in an American way, because again, I'm looking at these teenagers in America and comparing them to the African teenagers. They are totally different. The way they do their stuff is totally. The American teenagers are way mature compared to the African teenagers. I'm not saying African teenagers are daft. I'm just saying these other ones are way mature. I don't know. Maybe it's because of the circumstances in their lives and all that. So, but you learn a few things in there. And another one that I'm watching is On the Block. On the Block is also about, again, just young teenagers who are living, who are neighbors, and what they are going through and stuff like that. The way I said, I want to learn to write for teenagers, because I feel like there's a big void of teenage stories. We only have Tidy High, and really Tidy High doesn't do much for the teenage population. So I'm learning a lot. I'm sitting there and I'm enjoying it, but I'm also learning, and that is how you watch. Even with this COVID, you can't just sit down and feel sorry for yourself. Learn how to write for short films. Watch interesting short films that you want to, and then see how you can do them. Watch full feature films and see how you can watch them. You can work on them. Watch biofilms, mainly like Ray, films that are based on true stories. And try to come up with a situation like that. In this country, we have so many things going on. We have so many things that have gone, and I'm not seeing anyone writing any script on it. We have domestic violence. We have bad politics. We have corruption. We have so many things. We are not touching on. We are not working on. We had Al-Shabaab. I didn't see any movie on Al-Shabaab. We have COVID now. I'm not seeing any movie on COVID. So we let's watch other people. If you watch other people, then you learn. And also watch from the best. Don't just watch things that are mediocre. Watch from the best. Watch the best. And the best, I can't say anything, or I'm not being mean or what, but the best comes from the West. If you ask me the best African thing, maybe look for a South African movie or series and watch it, because I think even them in Africa, I think they're the ones who are trying the most, compared to other countries. And tell stories that are sophisticated, that are interesting, that have legs. Don't tell stories that die in the middle of a series or die in the middle of a movie, you know. Writing a movie and writing a series, totally different, guys. You can't write a movie like an episode of a series. You know, write a movie the way a movie is supposed to be written. And if you watch movies and watch series, you'll find there's a difference on how to write for them. If you watch a series, you will learn how to write a series. And if you watch a movie, you'll learn how to watch a movie. Because there's a difference. There's a difference between writing a series and writing a movie. You see, a movie has to have an ending. A series can go on. So don't have dropped plots when you're writing a movie. A movie has to, everything, by the time it's winding up, everything has to tie up. So that is something that is very important that people have to learn. Yeah. So that's me and my storytelling and my script writing.